right.
Space. Hold
Space. Outer space, inner space, holding space,
Well,
giving space.
Giving space,
Yeah.
taking up space.
Yeah. So many terms used around this, and I know we're going to dive in deep. This was a massive one for me because in my earlier years, in my early 20s and mid 20s, I was a caddy on the PGA Tour. And if you follow golf and you know anything about caddying, or perhaps maybe if you don't, caddies are the kind of right-hand man for their players. Not just carrying the clubs and determining the wind and, being kind of a punching bag when things go wrong. But more than that, caddies have an ability to attune to their players in such a way and be so responsible to them. You want to react so much to that player, but doing that will cause a massive shift in his ability to perform because he's out there on the course.
Yeah.
And it's just you two. And it's such a special dynamic. And I held space for so many players for over a decade and never had a name for it, never knew what it was, just was this innate knowing that I had to be there responding to someone and not reacting because there was some money on the line.
And welcoming all of it, even if it wasn't pretty.
Welcoming all of it because there's a lot of words that are whispered into my ear that aren't the friendliest, when there needs to be an offloading of steam. And so this was something that I did over and over, and we do in the service industry, and yet we very rarely put words, a diagnosis, if you will, to it. And so I remember taking your training many years ago and being like, light bulb moment. And holding space has been truly a pillar of what sets somatic apart from an overall perspective.
Yeah.
And allowed us to see how we hold space with one another, our children, our parents. And really special to me, you gave me so much language around this term that when my father was in his final days on this earth, I got to hold space for him. And not only do it from that innate knowing that I did when I was a caddy, but I actually got to truly have definition of terms and to know what I was doing. And it's one thing to do it naturally. It's another to be aware of it. And I was so aware being there present with my father. And, a lot of that is to your ability to teach this concept so well. So I'm so excited to dive into holding space. You are, in my opinion, one of the best teachers of this concept of holding space in the world. And so
thank you, brother.
Excited to be hosting this.
Dude, this is where it all began. Really, for me. And this is where it began with somatic. This was what we were teaching before we had all the other meta skills, and the holding space was kind of this idea of lumping them all together in a way until we, to teach something is to dissect it even deeper and to really go through the process of alchemy, of really distilling the gold of what's there. But I had a mentor who taught me holding space, and he taught it in a different way. It was different. And I didn't fully understand because I was, at the same time, I was in this coaching program that was very Tony Robbins-ish. I was in body work to become a neuromuscular therapist. I was also studying Reiki and the energetic styles of body work. And then here I had this mentor who was teaching just holding space. And he was teaching some other modalities, but this was his thing. And I'm like, why this guy won't shut up about holding space? What is it, And this was almost 10 years ago, where this term holding space is, sometimes I watch it trigger people because it can be a little new agey. And so I really sat with it. We need to understand an applied, how do we apply this where it's not some airy-fairy concept? And it wasn't until I was on a hike and I came across a flower. And I'm usually, when I'm hiking, I'm moving fast. I'm running up a mountain. But this flower caught me and I sat with it for a moment. And I'm sitting there and just looking at this flower and how just perfect it is. It's perfect. And it's not having any self-judgment. It's not like thinking it needs to be any different. It's not trying to be any different. Like, it just is. It has its innate intelligence. It knows what it is. And it's there. And I'm like, maybe I should pick this flower for my girlfriend. And then I'm like, well, and at that time I was in the class, in this class, and just like understanding holding space. And, we talk a lot about expression within somatics and within somatic breath work and within everything we do. It's about helping people to express. That's one part of it. Helping someone to become the fullest expression. And the short definition of holding space is to create a space where someone can take up space, where they haven't been able to, they probably haven't felt the feeling of someone else giving them the space to take up space. And so I'm sitting with this flower, and it's like, if you love this flower, obviously you're not going to pick it. But if you really love this flower, you will hold space for it, meaning that you're not going to try to fix it. You're not going to try to change it. The best thing you can do is honor it and the intelligence of it, and just be in wonder and awe of how beautiful it is, of how perfect it is. And you welcome it you welcome its expression into the world. And so I sat with it, and I'm like, well, okay, if I'm holding space for this flower, I'm not putting pressure on it. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not trying to change it. And it's like, why don't we do this with people? If somebody is, I'll back up. I have a deep belief that every one of us want to find our own unique expression. We want to find our own unique expression. There are no two same fishes. There are no two same me's. There are no two same flowers or trees or anything. That we're all unique. We're uniquely us. And we're all connected, and we're similar in a lot of ways, but we have a uniqueness to us. We have our own DNA. We have our own cells. We have our own mathematical blueprint, if you will, that each cell follows, that it knows how to recreate your body, right? And so with that understanding of we're all trying to find our own unique expression, and hopefully at some point we come to the understanding that we want to find that unique expression in symbiotic relationship to the people around us, and we want it to be in support of each other. Like, there's an innate knowing inside of us that we want to feel like we're bringing something to the table for our tribe, for our community, and our expression does that, and we want to feel seen and heard in that. And so I started to look at my relationships from that perspective of this flower. And I looked at my mom and all the ways I put pressure on her, and all the ways I wanted her to change and be different, all the ways I wanted to, and even if my intention was coming from a great place, like I want her to be healthy. I want her to, I want her to be around for my grandkids. I want her to not eat shitty food and just genuinely take care of herself. The ways in which I was going about that was not honoring the beauty of who she was as a human first, and was really trying to fix or change her. It was really trying to fix somebody. And it's unfortunate because this is something that's ingrained in all of us, and especially you still see this in all the helping professions in the health and wellness sphere, is that when something's going wrong with us, we immediately feel like we're broken in a way. And maybe you don't feel like you're broken, but You go to somebody else to try to fix you. You go to the doctor to get fixed. You go to a therapist to try to fix whatever's going on inside of your head. You go to a physical therapist to fix my physical body. But what happens is we live in a world of duality, and if you are going to somebody to be fixed, then you are creating the opposing force that actually that you're broken. And if we're trying to fix the people in our life or change them, we're inherently communicating the thing that's not being communicated. We're probably not saying it directly, but it's being communicated from our whole being is that they're broken. And so the opposite of holding space is trying to change somebody. And for anybody who's listening to this who's tried to change somebody, how did that work out for you? We can't change anybody. We can't fix anybody. You get a cut on your arm and you go to the doctor. He's not going to fix you. He's not going to heal you. But he's going to stitch it up. He's going to put you in position for your body to know to do what it knows how to do. He's going to work with the intelligence of your being. Hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. And so this idea of holding space is creating a space where I'm not putting any pressure into the space. I've actually taken all of my judgment, all of my ideas of what you should do with your life. I've taken all of my advice out of it. I've taken all of my opinions. And I'm just welcoming whatever's present. Whatever's present for you. And beyond that, I'm just welcoming all of you. Whether it's bad or good or whatever the mind wants to come in and say, I'm welcoming you, how you are right now in this moment. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be changed. That you are perfect in every way, that every part of your body is working in this symphony of grand nature's design, and it's healing itself. And it's really an absolute miracle to be here with you and to create that space for you. And space itself, like if you just think about having space in your life, we could think about time, or we could think about physical space. What it allows is it allows life to do what it knows how to do. And we could call that digestion. It allows space, whether you're taking, some space in time to just like not take in a bunch of stuff, just be like all of these old, ancient practices of meditation, of yoga, of breath work, of being immersed in nature. All of these things were just holding space, really. And you think about the original way to heal your body or to cleanse yourself was to fast, was to actually just give your body enough space of not taking in a bunch of other stuff to do what it knows how to do. And as soon as the mind comes in, it's the mind that comes in that wants to change yourself or wants to change other people or wants to fix things or wants to help. Helping is a big one. We probably got a lot of helpers that are listening to this. Helping is a very interesting thing because we actually don't know what truly is helping somebody. And that's a big facet of holding space. But space allows digestion. Space allows the digestion of our past. In attunement, we talked about the past is not what happened yesterday, but it's what stayed with you from what happened yesterday in your body. It's the body keeps the score. And digesting the past, meaning processing it from a somatic perspective, that might not be, you need to relive it in your head, but to complete whatever necessary action your body needed to do in that moment, that stressful occurrence, that traumatic occurrence, to feel whatever you needed to feel in that moment, but you weren't allowed to take up the space to do that, right? It's completing whatever necessary action, your body, your felt sensation, maybe what you needed to express verbally. That having the space to do that with another person sends a signal to your nervous system that you've just completed that you're not walking around with the tiger on your back anymore. And so a lot of us, we live in our head and we haven't taken the space to digest our past. And part of that is because it's very hard to do for yourself. It's really powerful to do it with another person. And that's the beauty of this work. And that's why, as we continue to peel the layers back of holding space being the cornerstone of what we've done for a long time, really what's happening is you got one person that is holding space and so attuned and in their own alignment and welcoming the fullest expression of this other person, that then allows the other person to get out of their head and into their body and to express and complete whatever they needed to do. And so you have this beautiful aspect of the person holding the space, the person taking up space and expressing, and then the other person just honoring the innate intelligence of what's going on in that moment and not trying to fix or change somebody. And that is really communication that's going on between that. The last thing I'll say with that, and there's so much we could dive into there, is that like you can tell in our world how uncomfortable we are with space. We don't like space. And maybe you're listening to this and you want to argue that, but I'll say, the next time somebody's speaking to you, take a pause after they speak before you say something. Take a space. And even before that, notice when someone's speaking to you, if you're already thinking in your mind what you're going to say to them. Because if you're doing that, you're actually not listening and you're not holding a space for them to take up space. Listening to somebody requires not listening to all the things that are going on in here. To hold space for someone requires not listening to all the advice, when that happened to me, this is what I did, and you should do that too. When we're shitting on people, we're not holding space. And so we're not, a lot of the times we're so addicted to technology that just sitting like by yourself without being on your phone is actually kind of awkward nowadays. You go to places like an airport or just common places where there's lots of people, and it's to see a person like just sitting there, like not doing anything, not on their phone, not with headphones on. It's really weird, kind of. Just culturally, if you just peel back and you look at we're moving fast. There's no space. And what happens is so many of us have so much undigested past. And what I mean by past could be undigested emotions, experiences. It could be information. It could be all the books and podcasts and school and then the things your parents told you to do with your life. All of that stuff that makes you obese with the past. You're carrying it around like a big backpack, like weights. And space allows us to digest that. And then when you have another person holding that space, it becomes amplified. When you have a multitude of people holding space for you, it becomes even more amplified. And so we can dive into that, but just to give you a brief understanding of space in general, and then how holding space is really creating a space for people to digest their past, or to even beyond that. Why do we digest our past? Is to become our fullest expression in the present moment. Because we haven't digested our past, that's still taking up space on our memory card. And then we're left with like this much space. When we only have this much space, we only have that much space for ourselves. We don't have that much space for our family. We only have that much space for all of the things. And a lot of us are walking around with our memory card completely full.
Yeah, I know. For me, I definitely have had a propensity to run towards like nature, when I need to kind of have a clean slate on my memory card, and just feeling like Mother Nature was always the grandest space holder for me.
Absolutely. She looks at you, my child, you are perfect in all ways. Like, go play. Go run around and play. Children, they take up space.
Mm-hmm.
They'll run around the house. They're throwing their toys everywhere. They don't care. They don't have to have everything perfect. They'll yell. They'll scream. They'll they're not afraid to take up space. And until someone in our life told told us to sit down, shut up, suck it up, be strong, that what you say doesn't matter, that, the way you sing, you're singing out of key. The way that you move is like you're awkward, and the way you run is like all of the different things. It slowly gets impressed upon our spaciousness, how big we are. So many people struggle with playing so small because they're afraid to take up space. And space is really interesting because there's this aspect of how big our expression can be. And then, especially as a child, then we have impressions, moments in time, trauma, or societal impressions, or parental impressions, where this is what you need to be when you grow up. You're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you're not successful. This is what I want you to do. They're just collapsed part of your space. You go into high school, and I'm trying to think back for me, you actually need to play sports and not do band because you're going to be a nerd and you're going to be picked on. They just collapsed part of my space. All of these societal impressions that get pressed upon us that really cause our expression to become diminished, and then therefore we become suppressed and repressed and maybe even depressed till that pressure is so much that our body starts crying out with symptoms of anxiety, of depression, of pain, of autoimmune issues. Think about autoimmune issues as the self attacking the self. And how much do we attack ourselves, and how much have we been attacked from this? Like, holding space is another really interesting concept to think on a societal level too, because most of our issues are the problems and the patterns that we have that we don't like are actually a very normal response to like an abnormal environment or an abnormal space that we've grown up in. As a child, we're not designed to sit in a chair. All the ailments that our body starts to get, it's because our space was collapsed. We were forced to sit in a chair, and we weren't able to express ourselves. Those were the impressions that were pressed upon us. And so it's a beautiful thing to give the gift to somebody, to hold space for them, to welcome their full being. And we need to get into the nuances because there's a lot there, which we will. But to welcome all of them, and a lot of the times in the beginning stages is welcoming the parts of them that they've really cut off from, welcoming the pain that they haven't wanted to feel. The last thing I'll say before we can get into some of the questions is I believe that everyone's trying to find their own unique expression. I said that. And within that is our inner artist. We're all artists. Whether or not you believe you're an artist, you're a creator. We all want to have our own artistic expression, and that's how we move stress and this pressure through us. And before we get to find our unique expression as an art form, we have to find our unique expression in the parts that we didn't want to express. And it starts off with people going into the sadness, into the grief, into the anger, into the pain, which feels so scary in the moment. But science and research has proven that when you let yourself feel an emotion and you let yourself feel it fully, it takes about 90 seconds to move through you, and now you just have that much more space. It takes more energy from your system to push things down, because feeling and expressing is our natural state. Unless you become as a child, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. And I don't believe that to be something far out there. I mean, right here, right now. Unless you become as a child. What is a child? A child takes up space. A child expresses itself. A child is so connected to their innate intelligence before society has collapsed them into this thing that they want them to be. You will not enter the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven right here, right now? In my opinion, is that we're all our own unique expressions here together in relation to each other and the plants and the animals and the earth in symbiotic relationship. And that could be heaven on earth right here, right now.
Damn. All right. Beautiful. Yeah, so I want to kind of just back up for a second. And
there was so much there. We need to kind of like get into the nuances, because it sounds great speaking about it, but there's a lot of stuff that gets in the way.
Yeah, I really just wanted to first break down a little bit into this welcoming, it just feels like such a warm word.
Yeah.
And it's really just feels so good to welcome someone, whether you know them or not. And it must feel so good for them to be welcomed. So there is this there's this creation happening. And so, how would you define holding space as a way of welcoming someone's fullest expression? You've talked about expression being so important and really finding your own unique expression. How can these two come together? And
it's this energy of welcoming, this state of being of welcoming. When you in the intro podcast, we talked about, it's like going to a party where you don't know the host and you might not have been invited, but a friend brought you. Mm-hmm. And how is your expression when you're at a party where you might not have been invited? You're going to keep your energy small. You're going to play small. You're maybe going to latch on to your friend, right? You're not going to feel sovereign. You're maybe only going to show certain parts of yourself. That's a big one, which I want to get back to. But what happens when the host comes over to you and says, like, oh my God, Stephen, like, welcome. I've heard so much about you. I've been wanting to get to know you, and then introduce you to everyone there, and just like, it's like, come, let me give you a tour of the house. Like, God, I've been wanting to connect with you. Welcome to my house. And think about just, it's interesting. That just brings tears to my eyes. I don't know. I wasn't planning on that. But this energy of welcoming somebody, how often do you welcome just parts of somebody? How often are you with somebody and you're welcoming them, but you're welcoming them only if they're the way that you want them to be? Right?
Guilty.
And if you truly love somebody, you'll welcome all of them. And there's this desire for people to be the way that we want them to be. And this is oftentimes coming from a place of control. And when we're in a place of control, it means that we're probably we still have, when you're in a place of control, it means that you're craving stasis. You're craving things not to change. You want to control it. And when you're in a fight or flight state, when you are in a state of traumatic defense, a lot of the times you'll go into over control because you want things to not change. You want the people around you to not change. You want environment not to change because change is scary. And when you welcome somebody, not only do you welcome all the parts of them, but you welcome them to change. You welcome them as a process, as a verb, even if that change is not in the way that you want it to be. You know, you could be in a romantic relationship right now, and maybe your partner is desiring to like grow and change, and maybe that grow and change means that they're growing in a different direction from you. Can you welcome that? It's very hard. It's hard. You truly love someone, you welcome their growth. You welcome their change. One of the things I see with doing this type of work that is probably the hardest for people is they have a powerful experience. Maybe they released a lot of emotions, and beyond that, it's never about the release of the emotions, but that's the space that's created internally for us to then show up how we want to be or who we want to become, or even you could say to find that unique expression of ourselves, that unique oak tree inside of us, that acorn inside of us that knows what it's about to become, an oak tree in a way. And one of the hardest things I see people go through is they go through this massive awareness and reconnection to all of the parts of themselves. And then they go back home. And when they go back home, the people around them have a version of them that's imprinted inside of them. And they want them to be the same person. They want them to be the same version of, they're basically, what they're saying is, I don't want you to grow, or I don't want you to change. And what happens is they've now just stopped you from being a verb. You've become a noun. And what happens there is we feel suffocated. Our space to express ourselves is suffocated. And things stagnate. And stagnant water breeds disease. And so being around people that welcome your change, that welcome your evolution, that welcome you to go into some of the darker parts of yourself, that welcome you to go into what's scary for you. Not just part of you, but welcoming all of you without an agenda.
Let's talk a little bit about what changes in a conversation when you're honoring someone's innate intelligence. We've talked a little bit about when you're holding space for someone. But let's get a little bit into this innate intelligence, which I really feel is this overarching umbrella, in a way, for somatic. And I would just love for you to just discuss what changes in a conversation, really communication, when we honor someone's innate intelligence.
Yeah. Innate. meaning that it's already there. It's already inside of you. You don't have to think about it. I think about our autonomic nervous system, or you could say automatic. What are all of the automatic things that are going on inside of you that you don't have to think about? Lots. Your heart is beating. Mm-hmm. What is the force that's beating your heart? Breath is an interesting one because it could be automatic or it could be conscious. It's a bridge between those two. That's why we love it. But it's such a gateway. But if you think about the digestion of your food, mm-hmm. the repairing of your cells, mm-hmm. All of where our minds can't even fathom. Really what happens when you're honoring the innate intelligence with somebody is that you're not in your rational mind. You're not in the mind that is trying to manage or fix or change. The mind is great, and it's a great tool. It's a terrible master, right? When you're in this state and you're honoring the innate intelligence of somebody, it's not that I need to say that to you right now. I'm honoring the innate intelligence of you. Yeah. When you're honoring the innate intelligence, you know that life is doing what it knows how to do. Not just the human in front of me, but there's a certain level of trust. You could call it faith. You could call it trust. There's a deep trust in the movement of life and the animating force. Think about animation. Like we watch cartoons that are animated, right? It means that these things have been brought to life. The animating force is the thing that's breathing us. You're actually not breathing right now, but in my opinion, you're being breathed. Try to stop. Something will say, hey, you need to take a breath right now. Breathe. Try to stop beating your heart. It's not going to happen. You know, even monks train to try to access the automatic or the autonomic parts of yourself. But what happens in a conversation, in an interaction, in a connection, when you're honoring the innate intelligence of someone's being, really what that means is I'm not trying to fix or change you, but instead I'm seeing you as an absolute miracle. I'm like in awe that your hair is growing and you're like, wow, now you just have a smile. Now your eyes, what an incredible technology. Can your mind even fathom how your eyes work? Really what this state of honoring the innate intelligence is, you're in absolute awe, in absolute wonder of the miracle of life. And what happens when I'm being in that state with you is everything that I am being is being communicated. This is a big part of this communication course, and especially becoming a practitioner, because everything that you're being is being communicated, which means that this other person's nervous system is receiving everything. And so most people have never felt another person being with them in a way that looks at them as completely perfect, that looks at them, especially if someone's struggling with something, especially if someone's really going through something hard or they're feeling broken. They've never been around a person. They've probably gone to doctors and psychologists that are like, here, let me try to fix you.
Yeah. Pills.
But they've or diagnose you. Diagnosis is a very interesting thing, because if you give someone a diagnosis, you're saying that it's not going to change. It could be a diagnosis right now, but it's you've just imprinted something in them. You give someone a diagnosis, now you say, you have this. Now it's a part of you. Which is a very interesting thing, because in my opinion, it's like the body speaks in a multitude of ways, and one of the ways it speaks to you is symptoms of different things. Mm-hmm. And can you honoring the innate intelligence from yourself for yourself is listening to those symptoms. We in our modern culture, we try to shut those things up. So we got something's going on over here, like let's put something on it. Okay, we got, I'm feeling like a bunch of pain. Let's use opiates or alcohol or whatever it is. And the metaphor with that is, and this goes deep into like what's actually helping somebody, because I'm not to say that there's anything wrong with like opiates and modern ways of getting people out of pain for the moment, like numbing them for a moment, like it can be incredibly helpful. But you think about, if I was working a job 9 to 5 that I absolutely hated, and it was a soul-sucking job, and like every part of my being, I'm in a call center or something, or like, and it just 80 hours a week, and it just was eating me alive. Well, best believe that after I get off work, I'm probably going to want something to numb me from the pain of my existence. I'm probably going to want something to put me out of feeling that. But what happens is if I continue to numb myself, well, then I'm going to continue to stay in that job. And so if I actually let myself feel that pain, which might be absolutely terrible, and I might just really be so upset at myself for the pain of my existence and what I've created, and taking responsibility for that, because we are creators. This is a side tangent, but I believe that responsibility is actually the most spiritual state that we can be in, because if what you're saying is that you're responsible, means that you're the creator of your life, means that everything that's around you is a direct result of what you've created. And so if I was in that job 80 hours a week and I'm drinking alcohol or I'm doing something to numb me from the pain of my existence, I'm going to stay in that job 10, 20 years. If I let myself feel the pain, well, that pain might be the catalyst to send me in a new direction. Right? And so pain is innate intelligence. Pain is a teacher, the pain teacher. It comes to you to say, hey, listen to me. There's something that you're doing that's not in alignment.
Yeah, I think I definitely saw when my father was in the hospital, they were continuously bringing these pain medications to keep him comfortable. And I knew that if they hadn't done that and they had just allowed him to feel this like full spectrum of suffering, that life would have inherently just moved into another form. But this onset of numbing it kept it in this state of like a living death. And my father stayed in that for like another 4 days. I even asked them, I was like, I prefer if you don't numb his pain. And they said, we can't do that. That's not an option. I thought, wow, what a shame.
Can you imagine? Like, I understand the mindset that they're coming from, the perspective that they're coming from, but you're robbing this human of the most powerful, the most important, in my opinion, time of this person's life. You're stopping the process. You're stopping the innate intelligence. I have goosebumps just thinking about it, but to honor the innate intelligence is to understand that life knows what it's doing, and to be in this state of robbing him of completing the journey. And to actually feel like death, when it comes, I don't want to be robbed of not feeling it. Because it's a part of this life. When you're holding space for someone, you're holding space for the full expression. Most people have only felt like, I'm only going to hold space. I'm only going to welcome like you when you're in a good mood. But if we cut ourselves off and we cut other people off from the lows and we cut ourselves off from the highs, the feeling dial only works for all the feelings. You cut yourself off from the lows, you cut yourself off from the highs. You cut yourself off from feeling, you cut yourself off from feeling. If you're numb, you're not going to feel the lows or the highs. It is that living death. It is the flat line, right? And so life is just like the heartbeat is up and down. Just like the breath, it's up and down. It's a wave. And so when we're holding space, we're creating a space for people to breathe, to beat their heart, to do the natural, intelligent things that their body knows how to do.
I know so many people, they seek out that diagnosis. They have to know, what is my diagnosis? Find a name, even if you have to make it up for my symptoms. Why do we feel the need to find that diagnosis, to be put into a place where we're finally feel like we're not alone, in our suffering? Why do we feel this need to actually fix others?
Yeah, there's a multitude of things there. One of the aspects is what I'm speaking to is responsibility. Responsibility means that I have the ability to respond. Means that I can respond in a way that's creating around me, creating situations, creating connection or creating disconnection. When you give someone a diagnosis, you've now taken away their agency in a way. You've taken away their responsibility because it's see, this is the thing that I have and other people have it too. And, it makes them not feel alone, which is great, but it kind of takes away a little bit of the agency in that. And it was very interesting. So I spent a period of time as a body worker, if you will, in Sedona, which is one of the more like new age places in the world and esoteric and really a magical place. But it was very interesting to have people come to me and, I would be doing different energy work or all different types of things with them. And so many people would come to me and be like, all right, heal me. You're the healer, heal me. Or they would ask me at the end of the session, like, what's wrong with me? And it's all coming from this place of a desire. It's all coming from this place of not wanting to take responsibility, meaning not wanting to actually listen to what's going on, because nobody knows yourself more than you do. Nobody is a healer that they're going to heal somebody else. I would get triggered sometimes when people would call me that, and not because, one, it's a tremendous amount of weight as a person to try to fix somebody, because now you're responsible for fixing them. It's a tremendous amount of weight to label yourself as a healer, because now you're responsible for their healing. Versus, I'm actually here to help you heal. Let's work together. Let's work together. This is, and when I made that shift when working with people, a lot of my own ailments, because there's shadow archetypes, there's shadow energy to being a helper or a healer, or, if you're a doctor or nurse or whatever, any psychologist, any helping or healing profession, The shadow archetype is to help to try to heal everyone else and not take care of yourself. And you play into that by being the fixer, by being the healer, by taking on the responsibility. And then you create the other opposing force that this person doesn't have agency and their body doesn't know what to do and their being doesn't know what to do. And now it's your responsibility to heal them, which that's not how life works. That's not how your body works. Your body is healing is something you're naturally doing. You are healing. We are healing. I am healing. A lot of times there's something that's just stuck. There's something that's just in the way. And so if I can create a space, if I can hold a space where this person has permission to get out of their head and into their body and to listen, because the body's always speaking, it's always saying something. Most of the time we just are sitting there with our hands over our ears like, la, 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 I don't want to hear you. You tell me what's wrong with me. The same thing, could go deep on like, let's turn to the government. Let's tell them what do they want us to do, right? Let's turn to mommy and daddy. They tell us what to do. You lose your power, your agency, your sovereignty. And along with that, you lose your humanness, your aliveness, your soul in a way. And so really, when we step out of the fix-it mentality, when we step out of trying to change somebody or taking on the responsibility of healing somebody, we create this space where we can now work together so that you can listen deeper to yourself, so that you can come up with the answers for yourself, because sustainable change has to happen from the inside out, not the outside in. You could think of a bubble of space, like you right here, and you have a bubble around you, your electrical field, if you will. And if you are coming to me saying, okay, here, now fix me, what's wrong with me? Then that requires me to now tell you a bunch of things. This is what I think. This is the protocol that you should do. This is when I had that, then this is what I did. And you should do this, and you should think about this. And here, okay, now we're going to try to fix you. The energy of that is like all coming from me at you. The change is coming from me at you. Versus if you switch it, when the change comes from the inside out, when you're asked questions, when you have another humans that's genuinely curious about you, that's curious, at the same time welcoming, at the same time honoring, what happens is light bulbs start to go off. Aha moments start to go off. Things start to make sense, not in your mind, but there's sensations that are going on in your body. Now you restore your sensitivity. Now there's parts of yourself that are starting to come back online. Now this change is happening from the inside out, and it's sustainable because it doesn't require me. Because I'm going to be here for a moment in time, and then I'm not. And then what happens? It's not just a session. Now it becomes a life for you. A lot of people struggle with healing because they look at it as like, my healing time is when I go to my session. It's not a lifestyle. It's not you and who you already are. It's not innate, but it is. And it's just a reminder. It's just a remembering. We get to create a space for people to remember. And it's not about learning anything new, because there's nothing really new under the sun. It's about remembering. Everything, your own healing, your own path, your own journey, your own desire. It's all already within you. There's just a remembering that has to happen. And it's often blocked by the stuff that we don't want to feel, by the parts that we're avoiding. And so when we create a space where it's welcome, like I welcome you to go, like I welcome you to go into the parts that you don't want to feel. Like I'm not judging you. I'm actually fucking fascinated. Yeah. I'm genuinely curious because I got a lot of it too. And let's do it together because it's more fun together.
Yeah, I once, I love it when you say everything you're doing and everything you're being is asking a question. Mm-hmm. And I really love that. And for this particular topic, how can we recognize when our need to help someone can actually be hurting someone?
Yeah.
How can we watch how what we're doing is really a question? Yes or no?
So this has been a big one for me, and I've always been a little helper. I've always been the one who wants to help every situation, wants to help my mom, help my dad, help other people. And what happens is we rob people of their ability to learn and grow. And we rob people of their ability to feel. I've used this example previously in the podcast and in attunement, but just think about when a child is crying, and a lot of us, we think we want to go help them by saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Like, you don't have to feel that. And maybe, it's coming from a well-intentioned place, but a lot of the times it's coming from a place of like, I'm going to help you, so it's helping me because I want you to stop yelling and screaming. And so, and what's happening is really like, no, stop. I don't want, like, what the underlying thing of what you're saying is don't feel. So we think we're helping. I've had so many people come to me and share just really awful things that have happened to them. And it's really hard not to be sympathetic versus empathetic. It's really hard not to be like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, I'm so sorry for you. And like, because, and this might sound a little bit cold, but I've just watched so many times a person go through one of the most painful moments of their life. And I don't want to fix or change that, because that may become the catalyst for them to completely radically shift their life in a way that then becomes a ripple effect where they help and they create something that actually helps thousands and thousands of people. And now that painful situation that I could have tried to remove them from, I could have tried to help them by picking them up and be like, you don't have to feel that, and move them over here. But them going through that, and the big change in that is when someone's going through that, they just don't want to feel alone. They don't want to feel alone. They also don't want to feel like someone's going to sit there and try to give them all the answers. They really just want someone to just fucking be there as a human with another human. That even though you're going through a really hard time right now, that I'll be here with you, and we're going to come out on the other side. We're going to come out stronger than ever. And we don't know what's actually helping somebody. And you see this with parents that do everything for their child or don't ever let the child struggle. What happens is they don't know, you've just robbed them of their ability and their agency to help themselves, to get themselves out of a hard situation, to develop the self-trust and the self-confidence. When people go through hard things and they overcome it, they develop their self-confidence. They develop their trust within themselves. And if you have someone that's helping you all the time, well, then you actually never stood on your own 2 feet. And so we have a desire to, and it can be really hard. It's so hard because we don't want people to feel pain. We don't want people to be sad. And we especially don't want them to feel anger or sadness, especially when it's directed towards us. It's really hard not to take things personal. But when you hold space for them, you realize it's not about you. They're going through their process, and they just don't want to be alone in that. And so really when you feel yourself wanting to help another person, notice if it's actually because you don't want to feel what they're going through. And beyond that, notice if you helping somebody is actually making you feel like you have a purpose. Because I've gotten caught up in that one. That's a big one for me. I feel like if I'm helping people, then that gives me value to my life. Well, what happens when I'm not helping people? I have no value. I don't matter anymore. When we're all inherently valuable just because we exist. So that's a really tricky one. It's a really deep one. And I probably went down this whole journey just to feel good about myself. Because every time I helped somebody, it made me feel like I was like I felt good. Like I had purpose. And that's a beautiful thing. And at the same time, it also can be a trap, because there will be times in your life when you're not able to do that for other people. And then where's your inherent self-worth and value there? It's a tough one to meet and bump up against.
Yeah. In a world where it seems like the coaching industry is such a massive, massive industry, I always feel like I just innately love to move in the opposite directions of the masses. But, I think that there's this kind of ideology or even morale value statement within somatic that states questioning over coaching. It's almost like a curious questioning.
Yeah.
Over coaching. And I wanted to just I love the idea that we allow others to get their own answers. And so I was just let you riff a little bit on what might shift within us personally, societally, globally, if we trusted people to find their own answers.
Yeah. Oh, you've helped me with this one so much, and I've just been so pissed at you for doing this. Oh, Fish, I need help. I need help right now. And you're I'm here with you, and also you get to figure this out. Yeah. You get to sit in the question. And as uncomfortable as that is, sit in the question, because you don't know what you'll get from that. And I don't even know if you've realized you've done that for me, and you probably have, but it's actually been a beautiful example of holding space. And we utilize this questioning, this genuine childlike curiosity. And this is even happening in a somatic breathwork session for those of you that have experienced that. What's happening is you are going on an inward journey, and you're going into your breath, and when you're breathing for an extended period of time, it starts to shut down your amygdala and your fear center of your brain, and you start to have access to more of your body and what it's telling you. And you might have a practitioner that's guiding you in a way that's just asking curious questions like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to show up in the world? What are you carrying that you don't want to hold on to anymore? And what happens is these open-ended questions that come from a place of genuine curiosity, it sparks our own internal space holder, meaning that when we try to go to the answer, we're trying to fix things, versus if you can stay in the question. If you can stay in the question, that is an example of holding space. And so some of the activities that we might be going into are around sensations, stories in our head, body sensations and emotions, and then we'll continue the process of going into curiosity and questioning. And what happens is it allows us to dig deeper into ourselves. And when we go straight to the answer versus rephrasing it into a question, it basically moves into the fix-it mentality. Like so there's a deeper aspect of this, and we've talked about it. It's almost like the somatic Socratic method in a way, where he went around and tried to find the wisest man, and everyone had all the answers. And that showed him that there wasn't anybody that was the wiser man, because no one wanted to stay in the question. No one wanted to ponder, to be open, to invite, to welcome. There might be something better. Yeah. There might be something more. There's always more. There's always something more. And so focusing on answers stops our process. It stops your life. When you think you've come to the answer for your life of like, okay, I need the girl, I need the car, I need the house. She got the checklist. Cool. I've answered all of these and cool. Life is great. Well, I'll tell you what, there's more. There's always more. Yeah. And there's a relaxation that happens when we don't have to find the answer. There's a relaxation when you start to look at your own healing as there's no answer to your healing, because it's already happening. There's only a question. There's only a question. And the amount of pressure that you take off of yourself when there's not an end destination, there's a continuous loop of exploration. We're explorers in this world. We're explorers of each other. You know, I want to spend the rest of my life exploring my relationship with you. I want to spend the rest of my life exploring my relationship to, my partner and the people I love. And what that means is exploring is that there's no place to get to besides bringing a deeper, richer, greater landscape, a more nuanced, subtle details to our connection. And it goes on infinitely. And life is just so much better when we stay in that exploration, when we stay in the curiosity. And beyond that, it'll be better than you finding an answer.
Yeah, it can be better than you dream.
It can be better than you dream.
It goes beyond, finding relaxation in the mystery of life. Really special. Yeah, in a world full of search engines and chat GPTs and all the things, it really comes down to how great are you at asking the right questions? Yeah. And that's really That's really what coaching should be, you know?
Questioning, if I ask you a question, what happens is, okay, so if I ask you a question, now you've just received that question. Now what goes on is there's like internal processes, and maybe there's like a little fish inside of you that goes into the filing cabinet and like just starts to explore. Maybe not even that. He starts to like, traverse the inner landscape of inside of fish, and then comes up with whatever's the closest thing to the answer there. And then it becomes expressed outward from you. Versus if I tell you, hey, this is what you should do with your life, there's no internal process that's going on. If you want people to change, you ask them questions with no agenda, pure curiosity, pure welcoming. And I truly believe that, like, when Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see in the world, he understood this concept deeply. He understood he understood, and what I believe he was speaking to was these metaskills in the aspect of co-regulation, meaning that there's nothing that I can do to change you, but I can change myself in a way that gets you to question yourself. That you can just inherently feel different around my energy, and that causes you to become curious about it. And that causes you to become curious about your life and the way you're living. And that creates change. You want to change your mom, you want to change your dad. First, you got to realize that you will never be able to change them. They're their own human. They get to do what they want to do. And if you want to have influence on them, or you want to, like, all you can do is become the best version of yourself. And how do you do that? Through your own internal curiosity of, what am I? What do I want to become? What do I want to be in the world? And from there, you can ask them the same questions that you asked yourself in that process, because you already did it and you've done it. You understand it.
I love it. Yeah. Communications, we think about it when we hear that word, we think about words, and then we don't really think about maybe even the structure of those words, and there's answers and there's questions. And I really love this somatic communication course, because it is a communication far beyond words, a communication that's deeper. It's body based.
Yeah. The answer, your mind and your body and your whole being is so geared towards trying to find the answers. Like, we all have all the answers. We have all the answers for all the things. And if you really had the answers, then you wouldn't be dealing with the problem. And so the answer lies in the question, truly. And we get to do that together. We get to explore. Beautiful communication is really about an exploration. Who doesn't like to be asked questions about themselves?
Yeah.
You could tell. Try this experiment. Go out there, and in the next conversation you have, just ask questions. And ask those from a place of how or what. As soon as you start to get into why or who or where, you get into victim mentality or defense mode. Ask open-ended, genuine curiosity questions, and maybe even throwing in a little bit of body intelligence in there. Meaning, like, how do you feel about that? Or what does your body want to tell you? And it's not just about asking that question, but it's more about how you say it. And how you say that, is it coming from a place of welcoming? Is it coming from a place of honoring the innate intelligence? Is it coming from a place of genuine wonder and awe of the miracle that we're here together?
End with a breath.
Yeah.
Thank you,
There's so
Jaggers.
much more to go into,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited to dive into and to explore.
Yeah, that's what the course is for. We're
Right?
excited for it.
We'll see you soon.
All right, let's explore together.
Yep. Later, brother.